Alabama's insane recruiting run isn't quite over. With five-star edge Tank Jones in their sight, what's the latest and why haven't we heard anything? Stick around. Let's talk about it. You know the drill. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Back at it with some recruiting talk because you love to talk recruiting. Alabama's been on an absolute heater late this summer. Things have been looking really, really, really good for the Tide. We'll see what August 1st has to say about it. Nothing. Alabama's going to continue on. Some other teams are about to catch fire. I think Georgia's about to kind of go on a little bit of a tear. But right now, Alabama is throwing all of its resources at one player. And before we start talking about that player, we cover all of this stuff for you. Now, I'll be straight up with you. We're not insiders. We do know some people and we do talk to some people, but we try not to leverage those relationships for inside information because then they're not friendships. But sometimes people talk. And so just a lot of what we talk about in recruiting is based off of just our observations and opinions. So keep that in mind, and then it's just recruiting. Things change. So it's just something for us all to talk about and have a good time discussing. It doesn't mean it's gospel. It doesn't mean it's concrete. I can't control what an 18-year-old does who lives 2 states away from me. So just keep that in mind. But we do kind of consolidate all the information from everywhere else and bring it right here for you. So you can just sit down with a big plate and fork and gobble it up. So make it easy for you. The best thing you could do is go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, just join our community. Be part of our lives. We do live shows every Thursday night. We've got a really cool one coming up tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. Cruz Oxenrider, for those of you who aren't on X, you probably don't know Cruz, but Cruz is he's very tapped in with the Alabama community at the Saban family. And he's just a fun dude to talk to. He's a fun guy to follow on social media, really down to earth, just fun guy. We're going to have him on and we're going to talk some 2025 Alabama football tonight live. Be there, join, become a member, do all the things. But you're not here to hear me lobby to you. What you want to hear is what's going on with Anthony Tank Jones. Alabama, like I said, recently has just been absolutely going nuts on the recruiting trail. They have more 5 stars than anybody in college football right now with less recruits. And I think they're sitting at like number 6 in the recruiting rankings. They're going to finish in the top 3 before it's all said and done, assuming they can hold on to everybody that they already have verbally committed. I think they may lose a guy or two, but I don't know that it's going to be one of the most recent 5 stars. I think that depending on some things that maybe could happen at the wide receiver position later on in the fall, you may lose, a Brian Williams Jr. and Owen Cabell, but we'll see. Again, it's fluid. It's ever changing, constantly in flux because it's recruiting as well. There's the House settlement changes some things. Every school is kind of interpreting those rules differently and how they're recruiting and how they're approaching recruiting. Some schools are kind of the Alamo right now. Auburn standing outside of the box, and I don't know necessarily that it's going to pay off for them, but if it does, it's a brilliant, genius play. If not, they look like idiots. But either way, speaking of Auburn, they whiffed on another in-state recruit because 5-star edge Anthony Jones has dropped his top 3, and those 3 do not include the Eagles of Lee County, or the Tigers of Lee County, or the whatever they call themselves these days. It actually includes Oregon, surprise, surprise, Texas A&M, surprise, surprise, and Alabama. Roll Tide, surprise, surprise. It's no secret Alabama has been playing the NIL game strong in the 2026 recruiting cycle. They kind of had to. They kind of have to jump in there and make a statement. And with Courtney Morgan running the show behind closed doors, they're very much doing that. So much so that fans are losing their absolute minds. Opposing fans are losing their absolute minds. They're claiming cheating. They're claiming that Alabama's going to lose all their recruits come August 1st. moving the goalposts any which way they can, because for a year they've been barking that Alabama's dead in the water. They're not going to be able to recruit, and the writing's on the wall. They're wrong. And so just did a whole video about that, by the way. I'll link it above, so be sure to go check that out. But anyway, in terms of Tank, yeah, he's got it down to 3 guys. It's going to be Alabama, Texas A&M, and Oregon. Now, he is leaning everywhere, me too, right now, to Alabama. I don't have a prediction in for him to Alabama. Let's take a look at the Whoop board. This is our updated Whoop board. We hit on everybody that we predicted so far, as long as their verbals remain intact. But in terms of Tank, I haven't predicted him yet. We don't have a Whoop in for Tank yet. Why is that, Cotton? Why is that? Well, because my confidence level is not super high. He's leaning Alabama, but when you look at the 3 schools in play, you've got Oregon, Texas A&M, Alabama, who is playing the NIL game this cycle. I know everybody told you that Alabama was broke, but here we are. Now, is Alabama going to be able to outbid a Texas A&M or an Oregon for this guy? Probably not. So that part of this recruitment, that modern day part of this recruitment, is the part that makes me go, I'm not comfortable doing that yet. Now, Tank has been a Bama lean for a while. Auburn kind of was in there. But as we're rounding this thing out, getting to the end, maybe looking at a commitment date here soon, I don't know that Alabama will close this one out 100% sure. I think that they're in a good position right now. I do. You guys all know that Chris, he is from South Alabama. He has some ends there with that coaching staff down there at St. Paul's. And it seemed like for a long time, the coaching staff have felt like it was going to be Alabama. But here's the thing with Tank is he's doing everything the right way. He's doing everything behind closed doors. He's not pushing it out on social media. This guy is he's the number 5 edge in the 2026 cycle. He's the number 1 player in the state of Alabama. I think he's like the number 17 player nationally, something like that. But he's been pretty quiet in terms of what he's doing, his process. And I have respect for that. I think that's fantastic. I think that's smart. I think that is a great way to handle your recruitment moving forward. We often see that some players, I should just say kids, because they are kids, will use Alabama as a stepping stone to kind of boost their social media, or maybe even try to get other schools into a bidding war. There's some players that have done that this year. Brandon Arrington, I think, was one of those guys. And so I don't think that that's Tank's game. I really don't. I think he's a Bama guy. I think he grew up an Alabama fan. I'm leaning towards Alabama with about 60% confidence right now that when it's all said and done, he will sign with the Tide. And this is a guy that Alabama really, really needs. They really, really want, right? You all have said it. All of everybody that follows us in the lives, you said it. You want to see more pass rush. You want to see that defensive line kind of get bulked up. Well, Bama's been doing that. You bring in a guy like Xavier Griffin who can play in coverage. He can play run stop. They can rush the passer. But then you get a guy like Tank Jones who could really, he kind of really reminds me of that Tim Williams type style, a true pass rush specialist. And outside of, Dallas Turner, a couple other guys, Will Anderson, Bama hasn't had that for the last season or two. And so we really want to see a guy that can come in and be that next level pass rusher, that third down specialist. And I think Tank is one of those guys, not to mention he's also in state, and Alabama right now is doing everything in its power to maintain that stranglehold they've had over the state of Alabama in recruiting. Not just that, they're knocking on doors over in Georgia. Xavier Griffin, number 1 linebacker in the country, is out of Georgia. Just insane work here. Now, so Cotton, what do you think? Now, this isn't an official prediction. This is just me. I think when it's all said and done, that Tank Jones will wind up at Alabama, but Texas A&M and Oregon are making very strong late pushes for him, especially Texas A&M. There's a lot of smoke there. We all know that Texas A&M is a money wise, they're one of those schools that it's kind of hard to outbid. They're hard to go toe to toe with at the cash register. You know what I mean? But here's the thing: you have to look at, does he want to go play in Texas? Does he want to stay in state? He's a Bama kid, Alabama fan. Does he want to stay in the state of Alabama? I think that will be the final straw in his decision-making process. And I think that he will wind up at Alabama before it's all said and done. Doesn't mean he's not going to get paid. Bama's going to pay this kid. He is a big priority in this 2026 cycle, but Texas A&M is not going to make it easy. They're going to have a fantastic class this year. We'll see if Mike Elko can keep those guys on campus like other, Fisher couldn't. Kevin Sumlin had issues keeping top talent on campus. Jimbo Fisher had that one insane recruiting class and everybody, mass exodus situation a year after. So we don't want to wind up in that same situation. Alabama doesn't, but it's funny when it happens to other people. So if he goes to Texas A&M, we hope the same thing happens. So I want to hear from you. What do you think? Like, where are you sitting confidence-wise on Tank Jones? This is one that, again, we haven't officially predicted. I think he's going to end up at Alabama before it's said and done, but I'm just not completely sold on the idea because of the other two NIL players that are involved in his final three. So I want to hear from you what you think. Does Alabama, do they bring him home, or do they keep him home? Does he play in Texas, or does he surprise everybody and go out west and play at Oregon? So leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for sticking around. Lots more recruiting news and fun stuff coming up. As always, you know the drill. Say your prayers, read your Bibles, make sure you're subscribed, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.